Hello everybody, welcome back for another video. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you're all having an absolutely fantastic day. And without any further ado, let's jump right into it. There's a bit of a once again like a mixed bag kind of news where the world is trying to figure out exactly where things are going. There's a lot of very weird trends beginning to happen within the crypto space. If you remember, especially, I want to say like even like a month ago, as I've been in this market for a while, you notice certain patterns and certain trends and the way that things used to be. And I mean, even as far as if you went back years ago, even at the beginning of stable coins or before stable coins, we saw constantly a lot of volatility within this market. The idea was if Bitcoin was going down in price by 1 or 2%, people would actually sell off their Bitcoin in mass and drop it into altcoins. There was no medium in the middle for people who were trading, and that medium is now stable coins. The other thing that always took place was the vast amount of volatility over the course of a weekend. So during the week, we'd see the normal movements, if you will, based off of news, because news used to actually do something a number of years ago. Like I said, you see a lot of charts, you see a lot of people talking and discussing as to why Bitcoin's doing this, when Bitcoin's going to do that, what this chart means, what that so-and-so. Before, it was just based off of pure logic. If we heard, or it was in the news, and I mean like traditional news, that a country was doing bad economically, Bitcoin would move up in price. If we heard that there was a country somewhere and the banks had shut down and weren't allowing their citizens to get their money out, which is still fairly common, Bitcoin's price would go up as a reaction to that. And a lot of that has become incredibly muted, if not completely disappeared. As I mentioned a lot of times, I talk about old trends and old things that used to happen. Or even if we hear, I mean, if you want to be honest as well, 2-3 years ago, if we would hear that MicroStrategy bought more Bitcoin, for those of you who weren't here, we would have a day or 2 days where Bitcoin's price would go up between 6 to 9%, roughly somewhere around there. We might have like a lull period for like a day or two after, but it would like reignite the market in some sort of way. So now we're discussing where's Bitcoin going? Why hasn't it moved as people are expecting? And what are the current trends that we're seeing? Bitcoin is very, very different from a number of years ago. A lot of people will say that it has to do with liquidity and therefore we won't move as much. But over the course of a 3-month period of a complete lack of movement, it's raising a lot of question marks above people's heads because it's not normal behavior at all. According to a research company called Kaiko, K-A-I-K-O, the portion of Bitcoin traded on weekends fell to an all-time low of around 16% this year. They're discussing, for those of you who didn't get it or hear it, on the weekends, after we would see the normal movement of things, the weekends were always an incredibly volatile period. The idea was, as far as we know, during the week, people were more actively trading, more actively buying as news was coming in. Usually Saturday and Sunday, there wasn't much news. Companies weren't releasing news. Cryptocurrency exchanges weren't releasing news. Cryptocurrency projects weren't releasing news. And people who were actively trading the coins were far more likely to kind of like relax as far as like the normal Wall Street trend would go. So we would see a dip in prices. Retail would usually buy up the dips. The price would go back up. There would be no new buyers for a couple of hours. The price would go back down. It was constantly this way over and over. But now we're seeing that weekends, if you will, have become more boring than ever for Bitcoin's price, as it doesn't really seem to move anymore. The decline follows the launch of spot Bitcoin ETFs, which appear to bring Bitcoin trading periods more in line with the schedule of traditional stock exchanges and reduce Bitcoin's price volatility. One of the notable features of crypto unlike stocks, is that they can be traded at all hours of the day and even on Saturdays and Sundays. In the past, Bitcoin trading had become notorious for wild weekends where the digital currency would experience wide price swings. However, this phenomenon appears to be cooling as Bitcoin's weekend trading volume continues to decline from its 28% high in 2019. The launch of Bitcoin ETFs is probably a reason why. People are asking, why isn't Bitcoin moving as much as it did before? Even realistically. Now, once again, show me as many charts and as many lines and as many ups and downs and all these other things as you want to show me. But these movements aren't normal. And the issue, I mean, it's not even an issue. One of the annoyances that I have is that a lot of people who just got into crypto or were never in this market seem to always have answers as to why they believe that something is going on in this market that they've kind of just entered. That's a personal thing on my side. It's like someone just starting a job and kind of like telling you how to do the job when you've experienced the way that your boss works, your coworkers work, and how the system is actually run. Yeah, no, all these price movements are incredibly weird. It could just be that we have entered a brand new world when it comes to this market. You don't get to a situation where ETFs hold more than 1 million Bitcoin and don't assume that someone's kind of controlling the boat at that point. The idea of volatility in Bitcoin years ago was seen as something like rather juvenile. It was seen as like, this is a brand new market. There's so much volatility in it. And people said as time went on and we eventually became a multi-trillion-dollar asset, that volatility would all but fall. We are still at roughly around $1 trillion. So the lack of volatility in general, even just from the news that we've been getting. Some days we had like really weird news and you kind of expect a price drop. Price drops didn't happen. We had like good news. That's when the price drop happens, as opposed to the price actually going up. Also in this like smorgasbord of Bitcoin news that's been going on. The discussions of if Bitcoin has bottomed are the main Bitcoin news that we have right now. How low could Bitcoin go? There's I won't even name them. There were two people on Twitter and I sat there cringing. Like, have you ever like read something and like you literally like grind your teeth because you're like, this is weird. Someone from a couple of years ago who shall not be named, who called the cryptocurrency space weird and terrible, and then like 4 weeks later got into the cryptocurrency space as prices were pumping. They thought that they could ride the wave because they thought that they were more popular than they actually were. Bitcoin and the wider cryptocurrency market prices began to fall, and then they once again proclaimed that crypto was terrible, Bitcoin was awful, and that anyone who was in it was a number of words. You can, fill in the blanks. And I'm not joking either. This was like a real thing. The mental insanity swings that came from this person were quite dramatic. And they were one of the people who recently posted that if Bitcoin goes low enough that they're going to throw in several $1 million, and it's like, we don't really need you in the market, and you're just trying to like, you're trying to get popularity where there isn't any because no one actually cares about you. So a lot of people are calling that the Bitcoin bottom is in, that we won't go any lower than where we came before. A lot of discussions around July and how amazing July is for markets and how amazing historically July has been for Bitcoin. The issue once again being is that historically, after the halving has happened, we typically had a little bit of a lull period. Prices do go down, they trend sideways, but then we would have normally have already gone up, but everyone has their charts and their metrics. You wouldn't believe, I don't know how many people just kind of scroll through Twitter between like literal insanity. That's not a joke. I mean, I see people who like need to talk to a friend. I see so the things that people say on Twitter thinking that no one else is reading is like really out there. Between all of that, I see hundreds of charts. And I mean, you wouldn't believe it. It's downward triangles, it's upward triangles, it's people drawing lines from the old price movements. where they think the market can't go anymore. And part of the issue is, this is my humble opinion as someone who doesn't draw lines and charts on Bitcoin price graphs, is that like 99% of these things have already like not come true on Twitter. Like, people keep drawing these things and people keep writing like, here's the day it's gonna happen, price increases, this is, and I don't say anything. I just look at their charts, and because once again, the algorithm, once you hover over something for too long, it begins to re-show you charts more, and also posts from that person. And I see like 12 days later, they're posting a brand new chart that's very different from the other one that they made. And it's like, no one knows where the market is going. The only people who probably have a good idea are probably like the mega whales who have like actual influence on prices. If this market made any sense, I was reading an article, and they were discussing like this idea of Bitcoin's price bottoming and the market movements and things like that. If this market made any sense, it said that we'd probably be around $120,000 per coin right now. They had multiple different price metrics during it was like a bearish price metric, a neutral price metric, and like a mega bullish one. So the bearish one, bearish was around like I think a $54,000 Bitcoin as like, the worst possible scenario. We had another one. The middle one was, I believe, 115,000, like the most bullish. If we right now in this universe, in this timeline, had the most bullish possibility of all markets thing going on, it said Bitcoin would be around $195,000 right now. So they were discussing like what Bitcoin's actual value should be, and it was priced between 110 and 120, at least at the time of me reading that article, based off of the metrics, based off of the movements, and based off of even the actual ETFs coming in. They also discussed like them holding 1 million Bitcoin. They said like even on the other days, if you follow, and I mean, why would you? If you follow the actual news of the other ETFs around the world, usually on any given day, we might have news of inflows to the US ETFs between 38 million, 79 million, 112 million, like in those kinds of numbers. The other ETFs around the world may do around like 4 million per day, 6.7 million per day. But you only need around $30 million collectively to buy the entire mined supply of Bitcoin over the course of that day. So they said even just from the ETFs in Canada, the ones in Germany, I think there's some in Singapore and Hong Kong and Australia and other place, I forgot the last place. They said just those alone are buying around 1.5 times the amount of Bitcoin being mined per day. And they said with the new addresses, and it's so many metrics to actually cover. So this is why a lot of times, I don't know, whatever, if people, but before people used to ask why I didn't care for charts, it's because I see them every day. When I'm scouring through the news and I'm looking for like, the topics of the last 24 hours, it's constantly just full of charts and constantly full of analysis and constantly full of this. We're in a very different market right now, very, very different. There's a lot of different money inside of it. There's a lot of different movement or no movement at all in many different cases. And once again, I think, as I said before in another video, part of the frustration of the market right now is coming from people who've been here for a while. We had another metric that was thrown out there about like long-term holders, and I think it's around 91% of people. I think 91% of wallets right now are considered long-term holders within the market, and even more so that metric is typically between 6 to 12 months, depending on which chart once again you're looking at. But I mean people who've been in the market for a number of years, and I would dare even say 4, 5, or 6 years. You know what the market is usually like. You know what happens with bad news. We've had days before. We're like, okay, we got bad news. We know for the next 5 or 6 days until it's out of public memory, we're going to be going down in price. You always see people posting prices are cheap, prices are low. I'm going to buy before the rebound. You know the day when people forget about the news. One little good thing happens. A country would mention the word Bitcoin, or how they weren't going to tax Bitcoin, or how they were so and so and so, and Bitcoin's price would rebound from that 4, 5, or 6% dip. We're no longer there anymore. The market doesn't react to good news. And also, this is why I say when I see those charts, I'm like, it's not that they don't mean anything to me. I find them cool and colorful and amazing, and all the lines and the zigzags and stuff. But Bitcoin has never really moved based off of like external logic. I can't really put it into words. Yeah, the idea of if that was it, if we're going to go any lower. Is that the point? Because if it was, then it looks like we might potentially be seeing brand new all-time highs relatively soon. The amount of new wallets continues to be astronomical all the time. On any given day, we're seeing around 100,000 plus new wallets created for Bitcoin. We recently saw on one day, I just knocked over my headphones. How did I do that? I wasn't anywhere near them. On one day, there were 352,000 new Bitcoin addresses, which is typically also usually a signal of like that the bottom is kind of in. We're seeing a lot of Bitcoin mining capitulation also going on. The people who are mining Bitcoin, they have to sell off their coins in order to keep the electricity on and to pay their debts, what have you, so on and so forth. Historically, we see that whenever they end up selling, it is typically like a flush out, an additional flush out of the market, along with people who are either long or short and what have you. Metric. But usually, historically and the pastally, we would use the metric of how many new people are entering the market because retail is still incredibly important. A lot of the news will continuously focus on the idea of institutions, of rich people. People are still discussing this guy from Dell, and he wore a sock that had the letter C on it, but if you squint real close, it looks like the letter B. He's clearly going to buy Bitcoin. Is all these kinds of things going on. The really important part and what you need, instead of talking about one billionaire getting into the market, is the idea that 350,000 new addresses were created. You need those numbers to continue going up because it's an indication that people around the world are getting into the market. You need this extra liquidity from all these people to be in the Bitcoin market for us to actually move up in price. If we keep hearing news, for those of you who were not here, we had in the last, I want to say 4 weeks alone, 3 or 4 different news stories about every single time that prices dipped, prices went down by 1%. The market got scared. Everyone was terrified. One day we had news that one wallet purchased $300 million worth of Bitcoin. Another day when the prices went down, and I think the outflows from the ETFs were 110 million. We had Wales purchase $880 million worth of Bitcoin that exact same day. The price did absolutely nothing because we no longer move based off of logic. And then the most recent one that I can remember, I think the outflows were something like 10 million. Like it was nothing significant at all. And that one day I posted on Twitter with my arms in the air, flailing, and I was screaming, running down the street because I think Wales had purchased $1.3 billion worth of Bitcoin that exact same day. So the market's not making a lot of sense. The most important thing, at least now, is like new people in the market to see interest. We typically, even if you have one of the weird bottom symbols, is the idea that if prices have gone low enough that even retail becomes interested. Prices go so low that everyday normal people are like, okay, like this is the number I was waiting for. So yeah, we have good metrics across the board. It's just a matter of when this market makes any sense. I'm feeling the crush mentally. I am bullish. I'm continuously buying. I'm stuck in this market for better or worse. But you can feel that something is like kind of pushing, on the brain, if that kind of makes any sense. And also another company has come forward to talk about that July is historically a very good time for Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency market. It says in past cycles, after breaking all-time highs post-halving, Bitcoin experienced several months of continuous upward movement. For example, after the 2017 halving, Bitcoin saw about 8 months of growth before reaching the cycle top. Similarly, the 2017 cycle showed significant gains for 9 months after breaking previous highs. In the 2021 cycle, Bitcoin broke all-time highs, saw 3 months of growth, a pullback, and then a final top after 10 months. This pattern signals an 8 to 10 month period of growth after breaking all-time highs. They suggest that July is going to be a tremendous month for the market. I've seen, if you want to be completely honest, I've seen a number of different months being thrown out. July tends to be, as we are here, July tends to be the more popular one. But I've seen a couple, what do you call it? A lot of people saying end of August, a lot of people saying September, a lot of people saying October, a lot of people saying December. So I think everyone has thrown some pasta on the wall. They want to see if it ends up sticking. And yeah, so as it stands right now, our metrics are looking wonderful. New people in the market, more usage, huge amounts of money flowing through the market, an enormous amount of liquidity. It's just about Bitcoin actually making sense. The rest of the market making sense. Yeah, that's all the, I told you it was like a bit of a cluster, a bit of a smorgasbord of Bitcoin expectation price news and all that. And yeah, let's move on. Being nice here, I think this was meant to be news that we were supposed to care about. The Central Bank of Bolivia has apparently reversed a number of things that they did a couple of years ago. So we had a couple of countries who announced years ago that either their citizens could not trade cryptocurrencies or use cryptocurrencies, that the banks could not use crypto, you name it. Financial institutions are banned. I don't necessarily remember this one because once again, they haven't been in the news and I don't know how long. But Bolivia has apparently reversed the thing that they said before, and now they have unbanned crypto. I saw a different amount of articles discussing that crypto was unbanned for citizens. I do not think it was ever banned for normal people, as far as I can tell. It appears that the ban is connected specifically to banks. That banks within Bolivia are now able to deal in cryptocurrencies and conduct cryptocurrency transactions. And I said, trying to be nice, it's mainly because, and once again, being nice here, Bolivia is never in cryptocurrency news. Bolivia, as far as I can tell, is never in traditional financial news. They don't have, and once again, being nice, they don't have a strong enough economy to even warrant the idea of them entering the cryptocurrency space as something that'll be something dramatically, fantastically awesome, amazing for our prices. There are a number of other countries who have told their banks they cannot deal in crypto. The central bank cannot deal in crypto. Normal people cannot deal in crypto. And I told a story from a while ago. I'll give you like the hyper condensed version. If you ever read older articles about the beginning of the internet, or the beginning of like the public internet, around 1992, even more so late 80s, there was a huge thing within the United States and a number of other countries. Even weirder, in the US, there were two companies who were trying to like get the internet banned. Yeah, you can look it up. Around from anywhere between 1986 and 1989, there were a bunch of like monopoly laws that were like enacted to make sure that people did not have a monopoly over the phone industry. Because there were rumors that there was going to be a new form of communication that would allow people to communicate quicker. And phone companies were trying to do anything that they could to get that stopped. The idea was that people would no longer use phones if you could communicate wirelessly through this brand new awesome thing called the internet. So around the early 90s, there were a number of discussions by a couple of countries, like a handful of countries. And I believe that France was one of them, where the discussion was like, do we actually need this thing called the internet? Should we ban it? And one of the things that really struck me was, can you imagine if France or any other country right now did not have the internet? I mean, it would be quite quaint to go visit and see how 1970s and 1980s everything was. And, they were literally living in the Stone Age. But I said this is years ago. There were a number of countries who banned crypto around 2017, 2018. This was because the crypto was becoming too big. It's the reason why, never forget this, it's the reason why the United States allowed Bitcoin futures. They saw that they said they had a 24-hour period where they were like, no, we have to do this right now. They saw that Bitcoin was getting too big and they wanted to crush it. So the reason why we have futures and the reason why futures are never a good thing is because they're normally just meant for shorting Bitcoin's price, for betting against an asset. There was something I saw recently, some crypto exchange is going to be launching a bunch of futures for some altcoins, and that means that their prices are probably going to struggle for quite some time. Anywho, so the basic idea is that these countries that banned Bitcoin, told their government, told their people to not use it, they are literally behind. So I'm not going to stand here and clap and be like, oh, they're doing what's right. It's like, no, like your economy is already not doing that well. And you thought that banning this new form of payment that's literally taking over the world was a good idea for your citizens and for the money? Like it just doesn't logically make any sense. So there still are multiple places on the planet. I mean, it's like 3 or 4 that have banned crypto. And I'm extremely excited to see what happens to their economy. Like, imagine if Bitcoin does win, does take over. Imagine if in 18 and a half years, Bitcoin does become like a reserve asset for countries. What happens to, like, those countries, if Bitcoin's at $18 million per coin, they can't accumulate hundreds and thousands of Bitcoin anymore. They'll be lucky if they're able to buy like 50 Bitcoin in the market. So yeah, cool. Like I said, trying not to be mean, but when you hear that someone has actively worked against you the entire time and then they go like slowly, oh, can I join your group? It's like, no, go sit by yourself. Once again, I have to keep reiterating because I've noticed a lot of times when I'm in conversations with people say that I sound very like too direct and I'm too harsh. I think it's pointless a lot of times beating around the bush. It just kind of makes me a little bit annoyed. It's just more of a, if you're going to ban it, ban it. A couple of years later, don't come back out and talk, oh, okay, now we're going to unlift the ban. It's like, no, like people are not going to do business in your country because they know that you banned it before. What's to stop you from banning it again? Do you even have proper cryptocurrency regulations? What can we do in your country that we can't do anywhere else already? If other countries already have proper regulations and have a 0% tax rate, where was that other country? It wasn't Portugal. I want to say it was somewhere in Asia, who told a number of companies, they said, if you start doing business in crypto here, for the first 5 years of you doing business with your company, you will have no taxes. Why would I go anywhere else? That's the Bolivia has apparently lifted the ban on crypto, allowing banks to conduct transactions with digital assets. Absolutely fantastic. Hope it works out for them. Yeah, that's the Bolivia news. And yeah, let's move on. Also I guess, I don't really know anymore. I don't know. It's the only place where this is happening, and it just it is what it is. Coinbase has embarked on a legal journey against the SEC and the FDIC, arguing that these entities are attempting to regulate the crypto industry, and their attempts to regulate it are unfounded and excessive. Accusations include misapplication of security laws and a deliberate effort to hinder the growth of digital assets. I will say from my standpoint, you can put on your tinfoil hat if you so choose to do so. There's clearly something going on, and we've gone over that before. There's clearly money being moved around somewhere or being given to someone, or something just isn't right, or someone just didn't pay up. This is how the world works. This is how the world has always worked. I mean, for thousands of years, if you go back to the Roman Empire, to the Greek Empire, there's always I want something done, here's some money. But at some point, I guess someone must have said no. And this is also one of my theories as well. Hope you have your tinfoil hat on. This is one of my theories as well for Ripple. I think Ripple at some point was approached by someone and they were like, hey, listen, if you want this done, you got to give us a suitcase full of money. And people from Ripple were like, no, like, I think we're going to try and do this the right way. And they got body slammed to the ground. It is literally how the world works. If you want to be completely honest, it's also how the US works. When you talk about lobbying as well, lobbying is literally a way for people to meet you in the lobby of a building. It's how most lobbying works. Look it up. And they will tell you, hey, that thing you don't really care about, I'll give you some money. And therefore, can you change the law? It's literally how it goes. Coinbase must have stepped on someone's toes at some point, or I couldn't begin to potentially tell you what might have happened. But the issue is that the SEC, and we've never really seen the FDIC's letters, but the SEC is usually at the top of the charts of like evil entities who are trying to do negative things to the cryptocurrency space. From what we know, the CFTC, the Commodities Futures Trading Commission, they regulate, but they regulate quite fairly. I keep seeing a lot of people, and I don't know what the disillusionment or the confusionment actually is. A lot of people are quite excited for Gary Gensler to go, and they think it's going to have a huge impact on things in November, et cetera, and then people keep forgetting. You know, the last head of the SEC that we also had was also a monster. People forget very easily and I don't know why the human mind does this or why the Twitter mind does this. People keep pretending that only things within the last couple of years have been weird for crypto. No, it's been happening since 2017. There's a reason why that number keeps popping up over and 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 over again. Why we had Bitcoin futures in 2017. The former head of the CFTC said that the SEC came together with the former administration and they came together and said we need to take Bitcoin down. You can find the article. I've shown it to you here multiple times as well. People keep forgetting that the entire point of the government is to uphold the values and strength of the US dollar. That is the literal point of the entire thing. I think a lot of the confusion about, okay, hear me out here. I think a lot of the confusion about Bitcoin comes from the fact that you think that it's supposed to happen seamlessly. We are in a gigantic tug of war right now, a massive one, where the idea is that countries will have no choice but to start to use Bitcoin because it simply becomes too big. It's not that countries all at once go, this is the thing that everyone cares about. We need to enact it. No. The euro will remain the euro. The yen remains the yen. The dollar remains the dominant currency on the planet. What happens is that more and more people around the world, when I tell you that the 8 billion people are important, I see the comments here. I see the comments on Twitter of people who, once again, don't care about other people and don't care about other people getting into the market. This market does not survive without us. This market cannot grow without new people getting into the market. Why do you think one of the popular metrics is that 80,000 new wallets, 100,000 new wallets, 300,000 new wallets in the in Bitcoin over the course of a day? The idea is that people slowly begin to lose faith in fiat. They see that inflation is ruining their bank account, is ruining their shopping cart, and they go, I need an alternative. They begin to buy up Satoshis, they begin to buy fragments of Bitcoin, and then Bitcoin becomes so big because we have several billion people in it around the world that people are mainly transacting in Bitcoin. And then governments go, we need to start adopting this in some sort of way because of public pressure. And then they slowly adopt Bitcoin. And then we get to hyper Bitcoinization and Bitcoin becomes the standard. You have to read the cryptocurrency space history. People keep, it's the same exact mentality. A lot of people keep getting in the space and they don't understand the space at all. And people keep assuming that things are going to happen like that. No, this is a slow process. This is a brand new currency. Bitcoin is not going to become the world currency overnight. It is going to take decades for it to happen. And we are slowly moving down that path. And the only way for it to happen is to get the rest of the world into this market, to let them understand that we have a brand new system. It is the only way that this market works. Dragging it on back, one of the jobs of the SEC and the FDIC and everything else is to protect the strength of the US dollar. I do not know when or how or what the conversations have been, but there's clearly a gigantic amount of pushback that's happening from the SEC that doesn't logically make a lot of sense when it comes to even thinking that a vast majority of and or all coins on the market are securities. This is meant to dampen and hamper the market. It's meant to push things down and cause disinterest in the space. And the problem is you have a whole bunch of idiots out there who continue ringing the unregistered securities bell, trying to make it seem as though the crappy coin that they're holding isn't going to be touched by the SEC, and it's all of them. You ring the bell, you're also hearing it as well. The SEC hears it. People in this space keep standing on the side of the enemy, of the SEC, thinking that they're doing something great. And no, you look like an absolute moron. It doesn't make any sense. These people they want to crush the cryptocurrency industry. Anything else that has ever caused any kind of tension for the US dollar has been completely wiped out. Look up history. Look up Latin American countries and the things that they created and the governments that they created and how they were wiped out by the power of the US dollar. The SEC, based off of what they've been doing, even talking about things on top of these chains are security, is their way of maintaining control and also keeping the US dollar above everything else. If you get any inkling, if you get a chance to look at the talks of the creation of the euro, were met with so much backlash because people thought in the United States, they thought that they were trying to make a currency that would surpass the US dollar. There were tons of discussions between Europe and the United States that the creation of the euro would not step on the toes of the dollar. People don't understand how strong the US dollar actually is. And we have a market now. We're slow and steady. We can continue to grow larger, but the amount of internal fighting, it's never going to happen in the space. There's never going to be this weird kumbaya moment where everyone actually gets together and understands I don't want to use the term common enemy, but you understand the idea behind it. It's really weird. Like, people throughout history refuse to join together for the common cause. It always is us against them, 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 and it keeps going on forever. It's constantly a battle and a fight. Instead of, there's strength in numbers. There's a reason why that term exists. So Coinbase is basically trying to push back against the SEC and say that what they've been doing has been it's been an excessive amount of overreach. And it's gotten to the point where they're not the only ones. There are actual multiple companies who are also taking legal action against the SEC as well. For years, the SEC has been criticized for its inconsistent approach towards digital assets. Coinbase highlighted this incoherence, noting the SEC's lack of clear regulatory framework. Didn't you ever think it was weird that every other country already has regulatory? We're not talking about Bolivia, who was like, let's unban it. Every other country has cryptocurrency regulations. Didn't you think it was odd when Hong Kong got it in 6 months? The US is the only one that still doesn't have it. It's because if you give one of the ideas is that, and this was stated a number of years ago, the moment you give regulatory clarity, you allow the institutions to pile in. The ETFs are a form of regulatory clarity. You say that, okay, Bitcoin is large enough as a coin, as a this, as a so-and-so, as an asset, and it has enough liquidity that we can have a securitized version of Bitcoin that institutions are legally, regulatorily allowed to enter. And then you see them all beginning to pile in. If you give proper regulations, like a government body is supposed to do, you give the green light to everyone. Remember how we had conversations about the banks who are getting into crypto? If you give proper regulatory clarity to Ripple, to Coinbase, to Gemini, and to Kraken, and to Binance, you say, okay, this is all, it's something, we regulate it, but then you also give the thumbs up to banks who are talking to Ripple to get into their space, to start using XRP, because everything then has regulatory clarity. So what you do, the only way to fight it is regulation by enforcement. You launch a lawsuit that lasts 4 to 5 years to say, well, we don't really know. And for those of you who missed it, during the court case, the proceedings, whatever you want to call it, Ripple asked the SEC multiple times. They said, can you please give us clarity? What exactly makes XRP an unregistered security? What exactly has the company Ripple done that is, breaking securities laws? The most famous one, for those of you who were here, the SEC took a couple of weeks to write back, like to give a response back, and the letter literally was basically blank. It said absolutely nothing. It said nothing of what Ripple or the judge was even asking. That's what I think her name is Judge Torres. She was like, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you giving any of these people an answer? Because we should have had regulatory clarity in the States since around 2014. I think it was 2012 or 2013 with the creation of the BIT license in New York. It was the idea we need some kind of regulatory clarity. And that, they fought tooth and nail against the idea of any kind of license within New York. New York being the financial capital of the world, you can't give people an okay to deal in this new thing that might cause problems later for the US dollar. So now we have the situation where the SEC is still on the same path that they were on. They still consider all these other coin securities, and now they're going after crypto exchanges, saying that for years they've been listing unregistered securities, but they're like, what? Which one of these coins? No, these are all bad. What is bad? Tell us exactly what's going on. But these legal proceedings are now going to tens of millions of dollars per year in costs. And it's getting a lot of bit ridiculous. Like at this point, and for those of you who didn't get it, who still do not understand, when Gary Gensler leaves, he is going to be replaced by someone who does the exact same things as him. Do not live under this delusion that things will be better for crypto, because before it was the same exact way. It's been this way since around 2012. The lawsuit specifically points out that the SEC's claims of vast authority over cryptocurrencies is not supported by existing security laws. The SEC has no claim over anything in this space. Zero. Jack diddly squat. They don't control these chains. They don't control any of them, even though years ago, for those of you who also missed it, the SEC was trying to literally get control over transactions of these chains. They didn't understand the idea of decentralization. And they thought there was like a literal database similar to Solana that you could control, that you could go to, you could turn on and off or restart or give control over the, like the actual ledger to the SEC. Do you understand how nonsensical all of that is? But this is still what they think. This is what they were talking about when it came to consensus, Ethereum, and anything else tied to Ethereum. They thought that they could get control over transactions within the United States of Ethereum. It's nonsensical. So yeah, we'll see what happens. We know nothing. You should know that nothing will come of this. The regulation that we've been seeing within the United States has come from judge rulings and someone banging a gavel and saying, no, that doesn't make any sense. And then giving, the cryptocurrency company the thumbs up. This will take probably another 1 to 2 decades. It's being done on purpose. You knew that there was going to be a tug of war, right? Like you didn't think that this would just be it that they would literally be like, oh no, we gotta, okay, fine, Bitcoin here, have a seat. No, it's going to be like, it's being done on purpose. The US dollar is more powerful than you could possibly begin to imagine. Do research, look into it. Like, it's not that difficult. I say it all the time. Read, learn about it. Learn about why it's called the petrodollar. Like, learn all these things, learn about history. And these are the things that make you really become, or make you really understand the cryptocurrency space and why Bitcoin is so important and why Bitcoin needs to be adopted by the masses before the guy from Dell, before Michael Saylor, before Larry Fink. Bitcoin is for us. These people already have their billions and their millions and their trillions. Anywho, I think that's going to do it for this video. Yeah, I do hope that you have all enjoyed. I do hope you all are having a great day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever the heck you might be. I do hope it is absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and supporting. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See